Hey everybody, it's Dan Sfera at www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Once again, that website address is www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com, the best place on the internet for clinical trials content and clinical trials information. And that's true whether you're a study participant, potential study participant, or even a researcher, someone who works in the industry. We try to provide content for all you guys, but primarily for the research participants and the potential study participants out there. There's a lot of stuff out there, online. There's good content out there, it's just hard to get it all in one place, and sometimes it's hard to get it in plain English, which is why we do these posts. So anyways, today's blog is going to be about expectations. It's going to be all about you being the study participant. What are your expectations when you go into a clinical trial? And even if you've never been in a clinical trial, it's important to understand what you want to get out of the clinical trial. So there's nothing wrong, like right now there's about 20 million Americans in a clinical trial. At this moment as we speak, or as I speak, there's 20 million Americans in a study. Now each one of those has their own reasons for doing it. But the point of me telling you this is that it's important to understand what your expectations are in order to put yourself in a position to succeed. So unless you understand why you want to do a clinical trial, no one else is going to be able to help you. You can come to me and Don and say, hey, I want to do a clinical trial, but we have to know why. Are you seeking better treatments? Are you dissatisfied with your current treatment and are looking for something else? Are you suffering from a chronic condition where you really need some type of help, like fast? Or are you just looking for better long-term treatment? Or are you dissatisfied with your your current levels of medical care, and you're looking at clinical trials as an alternative to perhaps have people watch over your condition a little better? And that may be the case that a lot of people are in now, because some people don't see their doctors based on their insurance for, months at a time. So they say, well, if I'm in a clinical trial, someone's going to see me on a weekly basis, even a daily basis, but at least a monthly basis. So I might as well do a clinical trial to get better care. Some people do studies for that reason. So depending on what you are, what your reasons are, and then the other people do it for the money. And like Don and I have said, there's nothing wrong with that. There's no right or wrong reason to do a clinical trial. It's kind of like Reese's Pieces. There is no right way to do a clinical trial. There's no wrong reason to do one. It's just, you have to know your expectations, and then you have to know which studies or which particular clinical trials are currently available that can best suit your expectations, best suit your needs, and therefore you're putting yourself in a position to succeed. Because there's so many trials out there right now, there is no way for you to know which one you should participate in unless you know first what you want to get out of it. As an example, if you want to join a clinical trial for the sole purpose of making money, which, like I've said, there's nothing wrong with that at all, you've got to obviously look and do your homework and ask around and call different research sites up and ask them, how much does this study compensate? And of course you want to go for the one that pays the most, if that's your expectation. Now, if your expectation for joining clinical trial is to find a better treatment, you got to look at your current condition and say, okay, how am I doing right now? Am I doing really bad with my current medical treatment? Or am I doing just okay? Or am I doing good? Based on your answers and your expectations, you'll know which clinical trial to do or which type of clinical trial to do. So if you're not doing well, you may be looking for some kind of new type of treatment that's not yet available to everyone else on the market, but it's available in clinical trials. Also, if you know what type of treatment you're on right now that's not working, you'll know what type of trials to avoid that have those type of drugs or the same class of drugs that they're testing for the clinical trials. So you'll know what to avoid. So if your expectations are to find a better treatment, You don't want to do a clinical trial where the drug that they're testing is very similar to the drug that you're on that's not working. So you see what I mean? You got to look for a different type of class of drug at that point. So it's all about what your expectations are and what you want or what you expect to get out of the clinical trial. Once you do that, only then can you make a truly informed decision about whether you should join a clinical trial or not, and then which clinical trial to join. Then you'll know what type of questions to ask your doctor, your friends and family, other people who have done clinical trials, myself and Don. We can at least put you in touch with the people who can answer your questions if we can't do it ourselves. But you've got to know your expectations. What do you want to get out of the study? Why? And then, with those answers, find studies that could best match your expectations and put yourself in a position to succeed. Hopefully this helps, but it's a very important question. I don't really hear too many people talking about it. Know your own expectations for a clinical trial. So you got to go into a clinical trial with a goal in mind, saying, this is what I want. I want to get paid, or I want to make as much money as I can in 4 weeks, or I want to make as much money as I can in 6 weeks, or I want to find the best possible treatment that's using a totally different type of drug that I'm taking right now. And of course, altruism. I want to help people in the future sufferers of my condition. But the beautiful thing about clinical trials is helping yourself is also helping others, because whether or not you benefit from being in a clinical trial, future sufferers of your condition will definitely benefit. No matter what happened to you and your experience in that clinical trial, science will benefit for sure. And that's really important to keep in mind. Another thing is, and I was going to mention something very important, but it kind of slipped my mind. Oh yeah, to wrap up, we've done a lot of interviews with different people, different study participants. We've probably interviewed like over 20 people so far since we've been doing this blog. And one of the interesting things that we noticed was the one kind of common thing that everyone we've interviewed had, that have had good experiences with clinical trials, was that they knew their expectations before they went into the trial. They knew what they wanted, and then they researched like crazy in order to find the best clinical trials to put themselves in a position to where they can have their expectations met. Now, the people who've had bad experiences, they didn't know what their expectations were. They were very vague, they weren't very general, and then they didn't do too much research, they just followed other people's advice. So they had bad experiences. I'm not saying that's true in every case, but for the most part, that's what we've noticed. Anyways, we're signing off. Let us know what some of your expectations were if you joined a clinical trial, and how your experiences went, how your trial went, how the trial turned out for you, and let us know what some other common expectations are for people out there who do clinical trials. Anyways, we hope this helps, and we'd love to hear from all of you. Again, that website address is www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Thanks a lot.